Alright, here we have everything that we need to build a zipper. So let's start from the right. We've got the frame, main frame plate, we've got the top plate, and this is the FPV plate. If you're going to build an acro one like this, then it only has this little cross plate. If you're going to build an FPV thing, then this plate goes all the way along. This is the bottom plate. This goes between the two arms. These are the arms. They're made of wood, painted black. A whole heap of bolts, standoffs, more standoffs, power distribution board, little ESCs, little speedies. These ones are RC timer 20 amps, and I've flashed them with BL Heli, but whatever ESCs you've got, they'll be fine. Receiver, you've probably got a better receiver than I do. These are pretty cheap and cheerful, but they do the job. This is a flight controller board. This is a naze. Now you've got a number of different options for flight controller. You can use good old KK2 Mini. You can use a Sparky. You can use CC3D. Basically anything that's 35mm square mounting holes you can use. I quite like the naze. I like Nazi, I don't know how you're supposed to say it. I run Clean Flight on there, works pretty well. Okay, next we've got battery strap and battery. This is a 5-volt regulator and capacitor. I'm cheap, I build my own. If you want to use a Polulu or whatever they're called, then that's fine. This is some rubber. And what this does is this basically grips the battery. It grips it like that. So just use any old rubber that you have lying about. Maybe a KK2 board or something. Props. For this one we're going 6x4.5s. And motors. Now over here, these are 2204 motors. You can use 1806s or 2204s. So for this one we're going 2204s. Heat shrink. You're going to need lots of heat shrink. Sleeving. This is important. You need this. This protects the cables that go from your motor to your ESC. And if you don't have that, then when your motor breaks off in a hard crash, it'll cut your motor wires to shreds. How do I know? Because it's happened to me. Now, what else have we got? Cable ties. You will need a lot of them. There's 500 in here, and if you fly for a couple of months, you'll probably go through a pack. This is what breaks. It's really cheap, works pretty well. Now, as I said before, we're going to FPV this one. So here we've got a very small, very light camera, small, very light FPV transmitter, and large and heavy antenna. You might be able to do a bit better on the antenna than I've got here. But anyway, just use what you've got. You know, there's no hard and fast rules. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is put the arms on. So you might notice you've got some different types of arms. I don't know if you can see that here, but you've got these ones which have this angled sort of shape on them, and then you have these ones which don't. They just have, they're just straight. So the straight ones go on the front. This is the front. The straight ones will go here. Now when you're putting these on, you'll also notice that there's a bit of a divot. It's a bit hard to see here, but that, if I hold it in the light, maybe you can see it. That divot is for the motor, the end of the motor to sit in. So that divot has to face up. So that means that this bit with the hole, that goes right in the middle, and so we'll go and attach that. Now you can use plastic bolts if you want, but for this one, for this build, we're going to use cable ties. So to start with, you angle them like that, and you bring it up through this plate to start with, and they go through this bottom, through the bottom of this arm, and then up through this middle hole, see that? See how it works? And now what we do is we try to get them through. Might need some pliers for this. Okay. If you're having trouble getting it through, you can actually widen these holes. They don't have to be this tight. It's a little bit ridiculous. So then you go back through here. And tighten it up. Okay, one set done. Now let's do the next one. So these ones, this arm here, this end, they actually cross over. So I'll show you how you do that. Bring it down here, over this end. Just do it loosely here because the two of them will actually pull against each other, and that helps to keep the whole arm really rigid. You might not imagine it from thinking, oh, it's only cable ties, but it does make this arm extremely rigid when these two pull against each other. So we'll just pull those two. So you can see here, see how these arms cross over. I'm not sure if you can see that, but these cable ties just cross over each other, and so when you really wrench on these, they really pull against each other, and that is not moving. It's really solid. To be honest, it doesn't really need to be that solid, but look, it's not going to move. It's not moving anywhere. All right, next. Now here's a tip. Just leave a little bit hanging off there, so that way, if you do have a crash and the cable ties just stretch instead of breaking, you can grab one of these and just pull a bit and tighten it up. So next, take your other arm. This goes again, make sure that divot there is on the top. So then we put that in there, put this bottom plate, attach that, more cable ties. Again, if you want to use nylon bolts or something, well, you know, go for your life. It's probably easier than trying to get cable ties through, but the nice thing about cable ties is you buy a big bag like this and you'll never run out. What I might do here is actually enlarge these holes a bit, just so we can get these cable ties through. Okay, it's important when you're drilling carbon, you must always capture the dust. So in this case I'm using oil. Oil is very good at capturing the dust. You want to really get a lot of oil in there. You do not want this dust to get into your lungs. So let's just, there we go. This is actually a bit that's used for removing grout from bathrooms. Works an absolute treat on carbon. It's really good. Okay, now for the rear arms. Now, bear in mind, this is an A tail, which means these back motors form an A. The V tail actually goes that way. So it's important when you get your arms, you organise them so that you're going to have an A tail, which is like that. So let's go. So same procedure as before. Just put your cable ties. There we go, that goes through a lot more easily. Yeah, that's better. Okay, now this one, this just goes all the way around the outside, around the outside, around the outside. this one goes through this little slot there. There we are. Now, again, same thing here as with the front arms. Just put it down, just poke it through, and bring it all the way around. There we have it, basic frame. Next, piece of rubber. So bottom seems pretty clear. Let's glue this piece of rubber on. Make sure it fits, looks good. Looks about right. Okay. So for this I like to use contact cement. This particular stuff, I quite like it. It's pretty good. It's a gel. It's not actually a stringy, gooey mess like some of them are. So let's just attach that. Now the perfect tool for doing this is a dead prop. And can you believe I'm moving house and I've cleaned up the workshop and I do not have any dead props. It's a travesty. So anyway, use the next best thing, cable tie. So just spread just a thin amount just on the rubber. You don't need much. There we go. You still do get some strings with this stuff, but it's not as bad as the non-gel stuff. Sort of goop it on. No one can see it just as well. Now you've got to wait about 5 minutes for it to set. So let's see what we can do in the meantime. Okay, that glue's pretty much dried. So now, being contact adhesive, you have one chance to get it right. So let's see if I can get this right. There we go. And that's on there. Excellent. Next step is to fit the battery strap. So we want it to be pretty close down in there. It'll just come over the top there, through there. There we go. Perfect. Right, now we're going to fit our motors. So for this build I'm going to use 22F4s. These ones are DYS 22F4s. So the first thing you need to do with your motor is to connect that little plate. So let's get everything ready to do that. So I put a little bit of Loctite just on some plastic. That's way too much, but that's cool. And there we have it, one motor. It's really important when you're fitting your motors, make sure that this little, the end of the motor shaft and this little C-clip or E-clip or whatever it is, doesn't rub against what's inside here. If it is rubbing, you need to make it bigger. Every motor's different, so some are bigger, some are smaller. If yours is rubbing and you can't get it to spin freely, you might have to enlarge it with the drill. So it's important when you're fitting your motor to get these wires coming out the correct side. So you want these wires to come out in a way that they're not going to get hit when you run into things. So normally you're going forwards when you run into things, or so you want the wires to come out the back here. Or for these ones, you want the wires to come out this side, because you're normally coming in like this when you hit. So let's put this one there. So the wires should be coming out that side like that. Now let's see how we can do this. Just chuck them through your motor. Through these two little holes here. And then come up. As you're doing this, just make sure that the motor can turn easily. You don't want the motor to be binding on the inside of this wood here. There we go. Okay, so motor's mounted. Next, what we need to do is figure out where we're going to put our ESCs. Now, this is a bit tricky, and it depends on the size and shape of your ESCs. This one here, I've got my ESCs mounted sort of out here on the arms. They were actually mounted, these front ones were actually mounted out here when I was using these really big ones. But now I've gone to the bear hugs, they're a bit smaller, so you can put them there. And let's see, these are using KISS ESCs, so I can put them there and there, there and there. For this build, I might even try putting them actually underneath the flight controller. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. It's now time to wire up our ESCs. So for this we'll need some clear heat shrink, some dual wall heat shrink, that's the heat shrink with the glue on the inside, mesh sleeving, this is important, you need this. We'll need our motors obviously, and soldering iron. So the first thing to do is try to figure out where your lines are going to go and where your speedies are going to be. And once you've done that, you need to cut your motors where your speedies are going to live. So first things first, let's lay out the speedies like this. Now we're going to do them. Something along those lines. Alright, so let's do this one first, and then you'll figure out how to do the rest. So I like to have a hot iron for these bigger wires. Make your tip nice and shiny, put a bit more solder on it. in our solder leads. Again, a hot iron is very useful here. So, a bit of solder on there. Get this wire nice and hot. Nice and hot. Get the solder flowing through. There we go. Make sure you don't have any dags or bits of wire like that. Next. Okay, that's pretty good. Now we need to get these onto here. But first, we need to cut some of this. So, we need to cut about a bit over a centimetre, maybe 13 mil. Cut 2 of those. Right, one of them will go on here, on this end, way down there, right up to the end. The other one will go on this end. And now here comes the shrink tube. The sleeving. See the end's frayed a bit, so we'll cut a new bit. Just cut the end here. I like to just burn the end just to stop it fraying anymore. We'll get the right length. Put this on. That wasn't too hard. Sometimes it can be. Now comes the fun part. Trying to get the end into here. Alright, that's pretty good. Now you can use a heat gun for this. Can just do as I do. Just make sure you don't get it too ridiculously hot, as it burns it. Okay, here we are. Now let's put this over here, but let's not actually shrink it down just now. Because one thing we've got to do is get our motor rotation. Now, BL Heli is pretty good as far as, you know, you can change the motor rotation if you hook it up to a computer, but I'm a bit old school, and I'll show you how to check your motor rotation. So, let's solder this on here. sure you don't have any dags of metal, like any wires just hanging around. Now let's see if we can get this one going. There we go. That's not too bad. Alright, I'll show you how you can check your motor rotation. So what we've got here is a battery, we've got a light bulb in series with our battery, and we've got a normal receiver there. And what we'll do is just power up this ESC and see which way it goes. There it goes. Now it can be hard to figure out which way that's going, so you just put your finger on it, you can normally feel which way it wants to go. And this is going the correct way, so we don't need to do anything. Very good. Okay, once we've done that, we'll take all of this apart. And we'll put this piece of heat shrink on here. And don't forget this stuff. I won't actually heat shrink it yet, because we will need to adjust these wires, and we'll probably need to cut this down, so don't heat shrink it just yet. But anyway, there's the first wire, first set. So now let's move on to the next ones. Now that we've sorted up all the speedies, we can actually start laying everything out and seeing how we can make everything fit. So now I've done the test fit, all the bits look like they'll all fit together. So now it's time to pull this apart and build it up for real. Alright, now it's time to wire stuff up. So here we've got a 5-volt regulator, and I'm just going to attach that to the power distribution board. So there should be a bit of clearance there. Now for this one, we only need the signal and the ground. So we'll be using these pins. I'll show you what I mean. So we end up with ones that will fit these once we move things around, but they'll actually go through, they'll span 3 holes. So we can do something along the lines of this. Alright, that's pretty good. Next. Next. Okay, we've shortened all of these leads and put heat shrink over all the ESCs. So now I'm going to show you how to turn these servo plugs, which have 3 holes in them, and I'm going to show you how to put these 2 leads together, the signal and the ground. So what you do is you get yourself a scalpel and you lift up this little tab. Just lift it up with your scalpel there, and this comes out. So let's just put in the right one. There you go. So that's in there. Make sure the little tab goes where it should, and then you just get your pair of side cutters, chop off the bits you don't need. Like that. That. And just clean it up a bit. There you have it. A 2er instead of a 3er. So this should work really well with our nays, which is up here. So the negative should go on the bottom. That should just plug in like that. Very good. Okay. So let's do the rest of them. Alright, now it's time to stick our ESCs down. So for this I like to use double-sided tape. So you just get a bit that's about right, cut it till it's the right size, about there. There you go. Stick it underneath. Make sure your wires are all going the right way. Make sure you're happy with where it is. Stick it down. These ones won't need it because they're sandwiched in pretty well, but we'll put some underneath this one here. Double-sided tape is useful because it's got foam in it, which means that the components aren't touching the frame directly, so that really helps not rub the components off in a hard crash or with vibration. Do. Alright, now let's look at how everything else fits together. This will go above here. So let's stick some tape along here. Now it's time to put a bit of glue on this PDB. You don't want these components vibrating and breaking their solder, so we'll put a bit of glue and just glue them to the board there. And the best tool for mixing glue is a prop. I've used way too much glue here. That plunger was stuck and everything all came out at once. Alright, so we'll just lift these up a little bit. Just drop some goop in there. Careful not to get this stuff on your contacts. Right, so now we've got some glue there, we can stick this on here. Stick it down. Now we need to put this 5-volt line into here. You want to make sure you get it around the right way, so that goes in there, like that. What else do we need to put in there? We need to put our battery voltage sensor line, and we also need our little buzzer. So let's make up the battery voltage sense line. buzzer goes in the middle. And the voltage sense pins go on this side. There we go. Now I just put this set back again. And try to get everything looking a little bit neat. So that'll go like this. Yep, that should all work. Now I'll just lift this up again, make life easier for us, and we'll do our ESC connections. Alright, looking good. Now, let's put this, have we forgotten anything? No? That's all good. Alright, let's put this down. Make sure we're not crimping any wires. Yep, well that's good. Oh, almost forgot. Now we are going to be making this FPV ready, so we need to figure out a good spot to put this little connector, and also figure out where we're going to get our power from. Right, final assembly. Now we need to put the correct wires into the correct holes here. So with the nays, with an A tail, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a little bit different to an X quad. I think that's a bit silly, but that's just the way it is. So, I mean, you can use a custom mixer if you want to. I normally do, but anyway, let's story for a different day. Let's just follow the instructions and go number 1, which is that ESC, which is this signal wire, which goes here. Now, signal should be on the bottom, so white should be on the bottom. It's moments like these you think, why did I try to be so neat? And tuck everything away. last one, hopefully, should be 4, which is that one. And they've all fitted. Oh, look at that, hey? That's not bad. So, all the electronics all tucked nicely away except for this. Still got to figure out what we're going to do with that. I like to have it facing backwards, just because you're normally hovering with it out in front of you, and if it's facing backwards then it's nice and loud. There you go. I'll sit back there. Very good. Okay, now the aerial will go up there somewhere or just here. Try to keep it flexible. It's got to be on something flexible because when you land on your roof you want this to flop around and not break. If you were to just cable tie it like that, then it'll break when you land on the roof. So yeah, on a cable tie is good. Like this one might look a bit dodgy, but you know, land whichever way you want and it works well. Okay, now it's time to power it up. Now, you could just plug that battery in and hope for the best, but I like to be a little bit more careful than that. So let's try, to start with, we'll go on diode range and just make sure that we don't have any short circuits. So again, make sure you put your red from your multimeter into the positive, and let's see what happens. So there you can watch those capacitors charging up. So that's good, that means we don't have a dead short. 1.3 volts, it's about right. That seems fine to me. Now what we'll do is we'll use a light bulb in series with the positive lead. We'll use a negative, just a straight negative lead. You really want to be able to limit the current in case you have a problem. So, you know, just in case there was a short circuit in there, boom, light bulb lights up, you know you've got a problem. So, okay, let's carefully connect a negative up. And let's just see what happens here. Well, that's all looking good. Nose is lighting up, which means our 5-volt regulator is working well. All the motors seemed like they did some chirps, so we're all good.